Welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of The Weekly Wave. I'm Matthew Lyons.
And I'm Aaron Johnson.
And our special guest here today is Chair of the Board of Health, Mr. Chris Schultz. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you for coming. It is certainly a chaotic time right now, so we appreciate you stopping by.
It is indeed.
So obviously, we're about 9 to 10 months into this pandemic. Hate to keep bringing it up, but it's something we have to do. We have to keep it informed. So we're here with you today to kind of talk about the future of Abington and kind of what we're going to expect. Do you want to kick off the first question, or do you want me to do it?
Sure. So, I mean, like Aaron said, 9 to 10 months. It's been a long road. What has Abington done the best in our adaptations to this new COVID world, and what is one thing that we still very much need to work on?
One thing that I think Abington has been really good about is all the businesses in town. We, as a town, mandated masks probably about 2 to 3 weeks before the state did, and we had full compliance from all the businesses. And in fact, a lot of them, when the first restrictions came down, myself and Alex Haggerty, the vice chair, we went out and visited all the restaurants in town to make sure they understood what the rules were. Most of them were already making the adaptations. Everybody's been really good about doing their best to keep their customers safe, to keep the town safe. So I think Abington has been ahead of the curve. As you know, as you're probably aware, like Brockton is in the red, has been in the red for a while. Whitman and Rockland are now in the red. We are too, but we at this moment have 61 active cases, which is not great, but is pretty good, all things considered. Improvement, I think most people have tried really hard, but obviously we have had some occasions where people are having gatherings because, I get it. People are sick of not getting together, but we know for a fact that that's where spread is. So we need to continue to avoid getting together in large groups.
Yeah. I think I completely agree with you from what I've seen. And I mean, even with schools, Aaron and I were skeptical about coming back. We thought people were going to have trouble keeping the masks on and not want them on. But I mean, I haven't really seen any issues with people keeping them on.
No, it's been a really smooth transition into this new kind of new type of schooling, I would say. And I guess I'm grateful because we didn't have to deal with like all the immaturity that we thought we would.
Yeah.
And my next question for you is because you were actually the chair before this pandemic happened, am I right?
Yes. Back in the day, before times.
So how has your responsibility as the chairman of the Board of Health changed due to this pandemic?
I think first and foremost, more people are aware of us. Our board is operated pretty much in the dark. Our main concern prior to this was vaping, making sure that the new vaping laws were put into place. And I think we were dealing with, maybe that was about it. Oh, marijuana regulations. When that changed, and that was really about it. And now we're the big focus. The thing that's difficult is the Board of Health is a regulatory board, so really what we are there to do is to enforce and put into place laws from the state level of the Department of Health. And then we have the Health Department, which is Marty Golightly and Lindsay and Angela. Those folks are the ones who are actually like boots on the ground dealing with the coronavirus.
Do you find that people are coming up to you and saying, like, why aren't you doing this? Or, oh, I have an idea to do this. And
yeah, I get a lot of, and this happens quite a bit. People will contact me and tell me, oh, somebody at this store is not wearing their mask, or I saw this or that. And it's the same thing. Like, it's great to notify us of that, but you need to make a formal complaint so that there's a record of it, and we can act on that. If somebody contacts me on Facebook, that's I can't do anything with that other than pass that information on. So.
Right. So everyone right now is talking about a vaccine. There have been some that are approved. When do you think realistically we can put all these COVID guidelines behind us?
Well, there's a couple of factors. So I think right now, and this will probably change, I think they're talking about mid-December is when the vaccine will first become available. You're probably going to see first responders, high-risk people get that first. I would guess, based on conversations I've had with our health agent, that March would probably be when we see mass vaccinations available. So we need to be there where people can get it from either their doctors or flu clinics here in town. You know, we can set up vaccine clinics here in town. And the other thing is that you need 75% of the population to be vaccinated in order for it to be effective.
Okay.
So until we get there, I think you're going to see, this is going to be a long time. It's not going away.
Okay.
Would
Thank
be
you.
my guess.
And do you anticipate another lockdown with kind of the trend we're seeing with cases going up?
I'm concerned about that. I think we're going to see, so Abington just went from, on Monday, we had 50 cases, 50 active, and we have 61 today. That's a big jump for one day. And 2 weeks is the incubation period, so I think you're going to see after this past weekend, 2 weeks from now, we're not going to be in a good place, which gives me a lot of concern for the holidays, because to tell people that they can't go out during the holidays is difficult.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that that's where we're going to be come the end of the year. So I'll keep my fingers crossed. We can always be hopeful.
Yeah, I guess so.
You mentioned that we need 75% of the population to take this vaccine in order for it to, work.
Mm-hmm.
What is a bit of advice that you would give to people who say, "Oh, I'm not taking the vaccine. Like, I'll wait until everyone else does it." What's something that you would say to them?
I'd say talk to somebody in their 70s or 80s and ask them about polio. Because that was the same thing. People didn't want to take the vaccine at first. Polio crippled and killed. There is concern, I understand that, especially with something new and it feels like it's being rushed. But if you pay attention to the data and reputable news sources to get your information, then I think you can trust that there aren't going to be any flipper babies or anything like that.
Right.
So when it becomes available, it'll be safe. And the best thing to do is to, talk to your doctor always. Don't talk to your neighbor or the guy on Facebook. Talk to your doctor.
Yeah, so similar to kind of how like the HPV vaccine could cause, I know you're not an expert on vaccines,
No.
but I mean, it being so rushed, do you think the likeliness of there being like side effects, like to be like there? Because I know for me personally, like I'm not anti-vax. I definitely trust vaccines, but for something to come out that quickly, I don't know if I would trust that right away. But so would you recommend, as a chairman of Board of Health, would you recommend we get this vaccine as soon as possible? Or would you recommend we kind of wait to see the symptoms?
I would say, based on whatever the prevailing wisdom is when it becomes available, what agencies have overlooked it, I think it'll probably be safe by the time it's available. One of the things that we're going to need to see is full transparency from the drug companies. For instance, I think the Pfizer vaccine has, I don't want to say serious side effects, but like people get sick from it. It's not like a flu shot where you're a little sore and then you're fine. Like people are actually down for a few days. So I think we need to be realistic about that. Long term, it's the same with the virus. Like, you hear people say, oh, most people that get COVID aren't that sick and they're fine. Well, we don't know what the long-term effects of this virus will be. So same thing with the vaccine. There's a certain amount of trust. But again, I think by the time it becomes widely available, it's going to feel rushed, but I think it'll be fully vetted. And just pay attention to the science.
Okay.
You mentioned that when you joined the Board of Health, your number one concern was vaping.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, no one was really prepared to deal with this. But who have you looked up to really kind of not only get your information from, but kind of figure out how to tackle such a big issue?
We are incredibly lucky in this town to have Marty Golightly, who's our Director of Health Services. He's a Navy veteran. He was actually stationed overseas during the H1N1 outbreak and dealt with that, so he's been through a pandemic before. I honestly, professionally, what I do for work, I unwrap rocks for a living. So I'm not an epidemiologist. Neither is Marty, but he knows what he's talking about. So we're hugely fortunate in Abington that we have somebody who is knowledgeable and proactive. And so I take my guidance from him.
And this is my final question, and sorry to kind of harp on this vaccine, but considering that we do get this administered in March, what is a realistic timeline for us to actually kind of start to assimilate back to a normal society? So like no masks, like no social distancing. Like what is a realistic timeline with the vaccine?
I would think if it becomes widely available in March, my guess would be by late spring, summer, we'll see a return to some semblance of normalcy. I think if you look at Japan and Europe and other Asian countries, like masks have been a thing for a long time, whether it's against pollution or illness. So you're probably going to see masks more often now, maybe not mandated like currently, but there's going to be definitely some changes. But I'm hopeful by next summer we'll be somewhat back to normal, or whatever you consider to be normal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come do this interview. Thank you for all the work that you have done in these months, and to all the members of the Board of Health, huge thank you. This is a crazy time,
It is.
and we just can't say thank you enough.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, your work does not go unnoticed.
Hopefully we're keeping people safe. That's all that we want at the end of the day.
Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for a brand new episode of The Weekly Wave.
And make sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts at the Green Wave Gazette and or the Weekly Wave.
Stay safe.
Goodbye, everybody.